Hey guys, what's happening? So we are back for part 3 of the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, where this third sign of Sidorak is causing some real trouble. Cause much like how we're seeing Peter get better at using magic, these scions are also learning from each other. So when you take that in addition to them having different abilities, it just increases the difficulty. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so coming back, we pick up right where we left off, with the next scion of Sidorak just popping up on Peter while he was having dinner with Randy and Shay. And Peter learns very quickly about this one's unique ability, because when she shows up, she freezes time. But when Peter asks her if they can do this later, she's more or less like nope. And she uses the same tethering spell that Peter used on the second scion to drag Peter through a portal and take him back to the moment where Uncle Ben died. And when they get there, she introduces herself as Sirios, but early on it's made very clear with her using the same spell, and even telling Peter like, oh, instead of surprising you, maybe I should have called it out, that this was information passed over from Centros and Cyperion about their experience fighting Earth's champion, so she's already using some of that to her advantage now. But when they get here and Peter realizes where he is and when this is, he immediately tries to go in and save Uncle Ben, only for Sirios to tell him, you know you can't go anywhere I don't, right? That's not how the spell works. So with Peter leaving her to try and go save Uncle Ben, he's only able to watch. And that's when she tells him here like, yeah, we're about to visit every painful moment in your lifetime, and you got plenty. And she even goes on to tell Peter that before this, she's already looked at Peter's life, everything there was or will be. So she already knows the moments to go to, whether large or small, to make this a daunting experience for Peter. And she's like, if you're gonna win this contest, you gotta surprise me. And right after that, she doesn't waste any time going into the next painful moment, because from here they go straight to the death of Gwen Stacy. But this time with Peter knowing the rules, he knows that he can't save Gwen the same way that he couldn't save Uncle Ben. But he also notices that every time they jump, it hurts him almost like a punch in the gut. So for that reason, he suits up in his mystical arcane armor and he tries to go in for the attack. But in the blink of an eye, they're taken to the moment where he got rid of the symbiote. And one of the things that's kind of crazy about Sirios, the daughter of Sidorak, with this whole time travel thing, is that now, or really on the last trip, she changed herself from a little girl to an adult, which is showing us that it's more than just time travel that she's able to pull off, which is kind of OP when you think about it. But at the same time, the more that she does to torture Peter, or better yet, the longer she takes, the more she's showing him. And that's gonna help Peter in time. But after this last jump, Peter goes for another swing, only to end up inside the church as Eddie's getting the symbiote. But Sirios notices that Peter's coming back a lot faster this time, in spite of the pain that comes along with the time jump. But as they head from one painful moment to the next, where now she has Peter watching the death of Captain Stacy, Gwen Stacy's father, she goes on to tell Peter, as they continue to head through numerous other moments, she goes on to tell him, I am not like my brothers. I have studied you humans. Since Strange first brokered the deal with my father, your lives are but flickers, yet you spend all of your time in the past, or the future, without the power to change either. The inevitability of time is not just about aging, but also change. While you physically change, champion, your failures are embarrassingly forever the same. It is predictable, and so boring. It does make me wonder, how can you not see that failure is your only option, no matter when you are, in the past or the future? And for a moment here, Peter starts thinking like, okay, well first, he hates time travel, with all the paradoxes and meaningless changeable rules, but what he needs right here and right now is a paradox. Because to beat Sirios, he has to fight smarter, not harder. And for Peter, in the here and now, with him just having that idea, it sparks the beginning of a moment that turns in his favor. Because now, after multiple painful jumps, she's brought Peter to the moment where the guy who would become Uncle Ben's killer gets away. So for a moment here, he tells her, like, if she's the inevitability of time, she should already know who wins this fight. And this is a brilliant move, because right now, Peter's stalling, and Sirios totally goes for it, because she's just like, oh, you fool, you think you can win still, but you can barely move. So she just goes on about how his future's gonna be a crimson wasteland, that her father's gonna bring upon humanity or whatever, and Peter's just like, yeah, okay, well, show me. And it's right here where she gets rocked by a Peter from the future who is prepared to be here and catch her off guard. All because Magic Peter thought of the whole paradox thing, so he set it up in his mind like, you know what, how about I have another me just here waiting? And it's brilliant because he's watching Sirios, he's not calling out the idea or the spell, he's just doing it because she said before she wanted him to surprise her, so there you go. And before future Peter leaves, he's like, don't you love a time paradox past me? but he also tells Magic Peter, FYI, the idea you had before Sirios time jumped about creating a device to detect when this future jump happens is spot on. And just before he goes, he tells Peter, like, I can't say too much, but just hang in there, okay? And I mean, after that, he's gone. But with him saying that, this now has Magic Peter, or just Peter, feeling like, man, after that pep talk, feels like something really bad's about to happen. And man, was he right. Because it's right here where Sirios gets up and she's pissed. Like, you thought I was playing? I'm so Sirios right now. And she's like, why don't I surprise you? And it's right here where she splits Peter's consciousness between every moment in his life, from birth to death, causing him to feel everything in the same instant. And this just has me like, man, so does this include the spaghettification and the subatomic death, as well as the upcoming deaths? Because in the here and now, it's really unclear. But either way, with Peter experiencing the agony of all these moments at the same time, his body just says nope, and that's another read of Ragador that he has to spend to come back, which takes him right back to dinner with Randy and Shay, where prior to this, Randy had set Peter up for his first photography gallery show, with Randy being his self-appointed manager. So at this dinner, they're supposed to go over the details and pick the pictures, but Peter just gets up and he tells Randy to pick whatever photos he wants to, because Pete's finding it hard to just sit there like everything's okay when it's not. So Shay follows him, but she believes this is about Peter losing his job or disappointing May again, because that's what he told her before. And I mean, it's like, that's part of the problem, but it's really this whole contest with the scions of Sidorak that's stretching him thin in addition to everything else. And it's funny because with everything going on, Peter's like, man, for a second there, I forgot I was unemployed. Like, thanks, Shay. Thanks for reminding me that I'm broke. And I mean, of course, he doesn't say that here, but it's really sweet what she ends up doing, because she tells him tomorrow they can have a picnic, because it's like the two of them, they're not official. And I mean, it's like they are together, but Peter hasn't put a title on it yet. So he just ends up telling her like, yeah, that sounds great. I'll see you then. But in his mind, he's thinking like, what are the chances of that happening? So he's just like, I'll think of a reason to cancel and just make it up to her later. But just after this, when he gets home, he finds Aunt May waiting outside his door, and she's not happy because with everything going on, Peter forgot to finish planning for the F.E.A.S.T Community Day activities. And on top of that, he was supposed to talk to Norman Osborn about the big donation he promised, because May needs that money to pay the vendors. But Peter forgot to do that too, even though he had spoken with Norman recently. And this ends up leading to Peter going off for a moment, because he's like, I'm doing the best I can. But he quickly apologizes to May, and he lets her know that he'll make sure to make the next meeting. But as soon as he steps inside, Peter realizes that he needs to talk to someone, because right now this is way more than just balancing being Spider-Man with his normal life, because this champion stuff, it's a whole nother level. So next, Peter's like, I need to talk to someone. And since he can't talk to Shay or Aunt May, he hits up Felicia Hardy, Black Cat, because the last time they spoke, she was like, you need to call me more often. And she let him know that she's single. And I'm gonna tell you right now, this woman, she left mid-burglary to come see this man. Like, she got a stolen crown in her bag and everything. So of course, Peter tells her that he wants to talk. She's just like, oh. But first, he just apologizes for being a terrible friend and not checking on her as much as he should, and she accepts that apology. And since Felicia already knows about the whole champion thing, she asks Peter how's it going, and Peter's just like, oh, it's terrible. So she ends up giving him some really good advice by telling Peter to find his joy. And she tells him there's so much to life we don't control, but happiness, small moments of delight, we can claim them for ourselves, and we should, unapologetically. And just before she goes, she thanks Peter for not trying to take the crown, almost like he's letting it slide. But then Peter's like, yeah, about that. But it's like now with them using magic, he's able to just take the crown without going through the whole back and forth. And she's just like, you stink. And Peter's just like, don't I know it. But this ends up leading to Peter going on that picnic with Shay, because like we saw before, he was going to call it off. But now with him going, it's like he's taking Felicia's advice and he's trying to find his joy. And I really think it makes for just a good solution, because for someone like Shay who wants to help Peter, this still gives her the opportunity to do that without Peter having to tell her that he's Spider-Man and get into all the insane details, which I think is a better solution than having him just push her away, because it's just nice to see Peter have a happy moment once in a while. But while they're here, we find out that Peter's being watched by Calix and Syra, who are the twins that we saw in part 2, where in Syra's case, she wants more out of this contest than just a victory. She wants freedom. But Calix, he's not too different from the other siblings or scions, because he sees Peter here, having a vulnerable moment, and he's just like, yeah, let's go get him now. Only for Syra to tell him, no, we need to understand this guy, because he knows very little magic and has defeated 3 of us, so it's better that they understand him before making their move. So for the time being, they don't come for Peter. directly. And instead, we head over to the factory in Alaska to see what's going on with the Juggernaut. And I mean, he's currently playing a video game with Quentin Quire, some basketball game, 2K25 maybe. Then again, with those wired controllers, I doubt it. But while he's here playing, and very invested, might I add, suddenly he just gets up and walks away. And at first she's like, what's going on? You quitting? You quitting against Quentin? But he just tells her, no, there's something wrong. I can't play. I must prepare. So now it's just kind of like, oh boy, this is really about to stir things up. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.